Hey, girl, hey. Nope, there we are. Good Maven morning. This has been one of those shuffle kind of mornings where you're trying to do the thing and the thing is like, I'm not going to be done. I don't care what you say. So, hey, girl, hey. Good Maven morning. Happy Wednesday. I can't believe it is Wednesday again. It is 7 days since my birthday, since that super fun webinar we did last week. For those of you who came, I'm so excited that you were there and you got to hang out with me while we talked about the framework and what it means to truly, embody your brand. That's really what it's about, embodying your brand. And today, we're kind of digging into that a little bit more through the idea of no longer negotiating your story. We all have a story, and oh, wait, let me make sure that Facebook has this where it is not private. Facebook has this weird habit of making it private. And I guess I can't edit it right now. Really weird. I don't even know the point of that. All right. So ultimately, the conversation today is about no longer negotiating your story. So everybody has a story for you. Everyone has a story for you in their mind, right? And that's kind of the reality of how things go. And stories are how we define ourselves and how other people define us as well. So really the intention for today is to talk about what it means to remember who you are, right? So much so that when other people come in with a version of you that is not clear or ideal, you can still kind of come back and say, well, no, this is me. So I'll tell you a story about my story. So, and this isn't all of my story, but this is one that my husband and I were talking about the other day. When I was 15, oopsie. So I had my son when I was 16. I was pregnant at 15. And very crazy time, extremely crazy time, because what do you mean you're pregnant, right? And my son's father's best friend one day said, oh, wow, he made you a statistic. And I thought about myself in a few terms at this point, right? Because like a lot of different terms were being thrown around about who I was and what I was and just all kinds of things. Because no one wants their daughter to get pregnant at 15. Like no one wants their sister, cousin, whatever, to get pregnant at 15. So at that time, there were a lot of questions for me as, not even an emerging adult at that time, like very much just a teenager, about what any of this meant and who I was in regards to this real thing now. And so he said, wow, he made you a statistic. And I sat with that for a little bit because I'm like, that's actually a crazy thing to say. Yeah, not a statistic, seriously. And I was a little blown away by it because, like, what do you mean? Like, that's a number, that's not even a person. Um, so in that moment, I kind of recognized that I had two choices. And I could either fall into this idea of this story where, oh, pregnant at 15, I am a statistic. I am all of these things that people expect from this moment, right? Again, narratives were huge, but the choice was to figure out who I was instead, right? At that time, I said, you know what? That's crazy. I will never be labeled that ever again. Even though everyone's a statistic, like in real life, everyone, like, we're all falling into some kind of demographic, right? But that's not what I wanted for myself. And I think that's the thing that we always have to think about. Like, well, what actually do you want for yourself? What is your mission? At that time I didn't have a mission. I didn't really have an understanding of like any of that stuff, but I knew I had a son coming, and I knew that there was a life that I wanted for him that that required me to be something else, that required me to take accountability for my story. I think a lot of the time we we victimize ourselves, right? So we understand shame, we understand guilt, we understand blame. Like, all of those things are stories that we're telling ourselves as well, from our experiences or from other people's experiences from us. Like, those are things that move us to make decisions. And if we're not intentional about what we do with the inputs from other people, then we just kind of like fall in line with whatever they think we should be or should be doing. Um, I kind of gave you like an extreme case, I guess, but the thing that this has to do with branding is that we do the same things in our business. People look at our businesses and they think that our business is supposed to do something. There's something like that has a statistical likelihood of happening in the work that we're doing and from our delivery, because it's what they expect, or it's because it's what they want from us. Sometimes the stories that people tell us are, yes, the expectation, but also what they want, right? Um, Maybe some kind of manipulation. If I tell you this enough, you'll become what I think you should become, or what I think I actually want, or what I think this world should really look like if you do the things that I think you are supposed to do. When you have a brand, when you have a business, you have a transactional item. You have something that creates transactions that are supposed to support other people, which is amazing, right? Like, it's beautiful to be able to support other people. But when you tap into your brand, when you tap into your identity, when you tap into your story, there is something specific that you were supposed to be doing. Just like when I was 15 and I had the boy, 16, and I had the boy, um, my job was not to fall in line with this idea of being a statistic. My job was to fall in line with this future that I wanted to create for him, that I'm still working to create for him, right? Tomorrow he's graduating from high school. Very exciting. At this point, I have a master's, I have a business, I have all of these different things that he can look up at and say, like, oh man, my mom did that. Right. So you really have to ask yourself, like, what should people look at your business and say, oh, wow, they are doing that. Right. Because, of course, there's the transaction of it all. You can definitely say, like, hey, this is a thing. The thing is great. But how is it living up to your mission? How is it living up to the thing that you want to create in this world and the thing that you want to be known for and what you want to be, right? You have to ask yourself those questions every single day, because seriously, woohoo, he is almost out of here, which is really crazy. You have to ask yourself that question every single day. Like, I have my mission, I have my vision, I have my values. Everything you do now should be in alignment with those things. And then when they're not, you move it out of the way, right? Like, your story is within those areas. You have a question that you are living in this life. I call it your unfolding inquiry, right? Like, there is something that is yours to solve. You are here for a reason. And there are going to be people who tell you things and ask you things, and it's through the lens of their guilt, their shame, their ideas of what life needs to look like. But because of what they know, they can't always see what you can see. So they imprint their story on you. They might have had a past experience that looks familiar to something you're experiencing right now. And their past experience could have been something that was taking them all the way down the drain. And instead of taking accountability for that experience, they just went with it, right? They just like, just went all the way down with it. So now they see your situation that is similar. And it's just like, oh man, this is going to happen to you too. Are you worried? Are you worried? Are you worried? And they like try to imprint the fear onto you, right? Especially in business. Businesses can last. Businesses can last. Sometimes you have to look for different angles and different options. But because someone else might have lost something in their work, someone else might have struggled in a way that they could not maneuver, you know, it might be hard for them to not put that narrative on your work and your business. But the reality is, your story is still yours and you're still writing it every single day. So instead of letting them like begin picking up the pen and making scratch marks, you can say no, right? This is a boundary. I don't talk about this in regards to my business. I don't believe this in regards to my business. But it's not just saying it, it's also continuing to take personal accountability toward making something come to fruition, right? It's one thing to own your story, it's one thing to know your story, to know who you are, what you're doing, and what's going on. It's another thing to own it and actually take responsibility and accountability for what's going to happen, what didn't happen well, and how to fix it moving forward, right? Like right now, we have a lot of the manifestation girlies saying, like, oh, well, if you think it, you'll become it, all those different kinds of things. And there is neurological truth to that, right? Because your brain has the reticular activation system. So when you think about something, your brain, because it likes shortcuts, will show you those things in real life. Like if you see a Honda, if you like a Honda, there's a Honda, whatever, and you start to see it everywhere, right? That's your brain showing you what you want. So yes, there is like truth to this idea of like, if you think about it, you'll become it. Absolutely. But there also needs to be accountability towards that as well. You have to own that that is who you are and what you're doing. And you have to like believe it and live it so that as you are going forward in the world, you're making decisions from the place of this is who I am, this is what I want, and this is what I'm doing. Right? Like, and it's easy to slip out of that because that's decline. Decline is easy, right? If you put a ball on a hill, it rolls down the hill. Decline is very easy. Going up the hill, that's a little bit harder. So you have to make sure, well, over 10 years, my business is still providing for me. Amen. I love that, Melissa, because yeah, and like I know you and I know you believe. And I know you also have people in your corner who are also believing with you, right? Another part of owning your story is owning your circle. Like everybody cannot speak into your stuff. Everyone can't know everything about your stuff. There are some people who are going to hear the things that you're working on and going through, and they're going to give you great advice. They're going to push you in a direction where you can like have a better understanding of what to do or how to see yourself or any of those things, right? And then there are some people who see what you're doing and they only come from a position of fear. Like entrepreneurship is risk. Being yourself in a world where people are afraid to be themselves is absolute risk, but it is worth it. So you need to be around people who understand that the risk is worth it to actually show up as yourself, doing the thing you're called to do, doing the thing that is going to change your industry and change the lives of other people, right? I'm not even going to be like, and change the world. Like that's always my like vocal temptation, right? To just say like it's going to change the world. And I think it is going to change the world, but let me just one person at a time it's going to change someone's world, right? Because you're here to change someone's world. But if you let the words and the fears and the ideas of other people stop you from doing that, then someone else is missing out. on what it is that you have to offer them. Someone's looking for you. Someone's looking for you, the version of you that exists in your story, the version of you that is taking the pen and truly saying like, hey, this is my life. This is what I want to create. This is what's important to me. Let me go ahead and like continue continue navigating and narrating that, right? One of the things I used to love growing up, and I still love, is journaling. And I used to say I love journaling because if I can write it down, I can process it. And if I can process it, I can change it, right? Um, Sometimes you really need to just put it on paper, start scratching things out, and like literally rewriting stuff and saying, well, if this didn't work, what is the next course of action that I need to take? Right. And then get people around you who like hype you up so the fear goes away, or the fear dissipates. The fear may not ever actually go away. So I'm never going to be the person that's just like fearless, fearless, fearless. You might become that, which is amazing. Right. And I love that. Right. That takes reps though. But the way you get to reps is by changing the story and taking action. Behavioral activation is really what we need a lot of the time, more than actually knowing what's on the other side of what we're doing. Like all of this is creating something that wasn't previously there in one way or another. Even if your industry is established, you have not been in the industry, or you have not like put your ideas out into the industry. So it's still going to be something that's new, right? And you don't have to hear someone else saying that's not going to work and determine that it's not going to work. You can very much go in and say, well, how does it work? Like anything is possible. Anything's possible with a plan, right? And I remember in high school, Mr. Dollard, my algebra teacher, love algebra, love Mr. Dollard, would always say, a goal without a plan is a wish, right? And it's true. Like you can have all these goals, and you can have all of these goals, but you need to put a plan to them so you can take action. So eventually, later, I started saying, but a plan without action is just a list, right? So now that you have written your things down, you're owning your story, you're saying that the conclusion is up to you. The conclusion, all of the things, they're up to you. You have to take action. You have to actually be in the story. You can't be the main character waiting for somebody else to save you. Like that's not how any of this works. Like you have to actually go in there and say, this is mine. This is what I believe and this is what I want. You have to want something. That's something I actually struggled with for years. Like I don't think I wanted anything for a very long time. And when I say a very long time, I mean like maybe within the last 2 years, I figured out what I wanted, which sounds funny because I was just talking about like my determination to not be a statistic. Like, yeah, of course. But that was me operating in rebellion to what somebody else wanted for me, right? That wasn't like my foundational desire. And it's important to actually like figure out what your foundational desire is and not just your desire from a place of rebellion so that you can move in that direction. Now, my rebellion definitely gave me legs in the time that it needed to. Like it helped me to survive, right? And now when I'm coming into a place where I want to thrive, I can't live in rebellion. Like my story can't be written in opposition to what someone else says to me or wants for me. Now it has to be lived from the position of like, well, this is what she's building and this is what she cares about and this is what she wants and this is what she thinks about and this is how she wants to be remembered, right? When you're only living in rebellion, you can only be remembered for the rebellion. But what about the joy? Like joy is foundational. Like joy and your calling are yours. They're not things you actually have to like rebel for. They're things that belong to you already. But there's like an unfolding and an uncovering and a participation that needs to happen for the joy to actually be like a part of your stuff. including your business, including your brand, right? Like there is something there that is joyful, that is already powered, but you have to access the power. Like I'm weird about the word empowerment. I feel like I've had this conversation at some point, but maybe not here. I'm weird about the word empowerment because I am a firm believer that we have to embody power that we already have. It's not so much that someone needs to like give us power or give us this or give us that. I think the things are there, but we have to actually like embody them and make them like a lifestyle for ourselves, that we are living in the power, we are living in the joy. And that doesn't mean that we don't have struggles. That doesn't mean that we don't have hardships. And it doesn't mean that we're not trying to figure things out along the way to make it more sustainable. It means that we have hope that we're moving towards, as opposed to running from. I feel like this comes up a lot. Instead of running from the idea that we don't have it and like we have to prove that we have it, we have to prove that we're happy. I've seen people overact constantly, especially in this internet age, overacting constantly because they want to prove that they're happy. They want to prove that they're successful. They are always trying to prove like that they are good or good enough. Like you don't have to prove anything. You have to go after it. You have to go after the thing that already is yours. Like it's attainable. You just have to attain it, and you have to continuously believe that you can attain it. So all that to say, the way to stop negotiating your story is to define what alignment looks like for you, right? What does alignment look like for you? What is your calling? What are you here for? What is your question that you constantly want to ask in this life to solve for, everything, right? But then it kind of comes through your business. Who are the people who are encouraging you, that can actually be in your corner and high five you and say, girl, we can do that? The people that are supporting you, right? Like what information are you getting? What mentors, what friend tours? Like the circle matters so much. We have been placed in circles, in schools, in families, um, even in like entrepreneurial circles, they're just deleterious, right? Like the people don't really have hope themselves. So they try to kind of like infect you with their lack of hope. So you have to be intentional about that too. Does that actually align with the life that I'm building? And if it doesn't, you might not have to cut people off, but you have to figure out what place they play in your life. Like it is okay to categorize people. I said that to someone one time and they were like, what do you mean? Like, no, it's okay to categorize people. Every person is not for every conversation, like, or for every need that you have. Like, and that's okay. Like, the problem that we often face is that we try to make people do things that they cannot do, don't want to do, and will not do. So then the question is, where does the accountability fall? Does it fall in them for doing what they would do? Or does the accountability fall on us for making a decision to give something to someone that they can't handle? Right? So now what do? You have to ask yourself those questions critically. No guilt, no shame, just change. Right? And my homegirl said it's not the change, it's the transition. The transition is a hard part because you do have to rewire yourself. You do have to rewire yourself for every different thing you're doing, right? And it's real. It's hard because there's pushback from external forces, there's pushback from internal forces, but it's worth it for the alignment. It is worth it for the alignment. That's what you want. You want the alignment, right? The alignment doesn't mean that everything's going to go smoothly all the time, but it does mean you're going in the right direction and you are going to be more fulfilled as you're going. And the likelihood of continuing to go until you reach the top is higher when you're in alignment. So, yes, I had a woman tell me my business wasn't going to work because she tried something similar and it didn't work for her. But she's not you. not you. She didn't have the you part. And maybe she could have done it, or maybe she couldn't have done it with like accountability or like having an understanding that she had to take responsibility for what she had to do, or like new circles or new ideas, or you know, whatever, new systems. But no, it's possible. It's possible. It is. Sometimes we get so caught up on the way we get to the goal that when the thing doesn't work, we feel like the goal itself doesn't work. The goal is still the goal, and the goal still works, but we might have to alter the pathway to the goal. That's why we get to take our eraser and erase it and then redraw lines, right? Again, I love like actual like writing. So that works for my brain, right? And sometimes you do have to redraw lines. Sometimes you do have to like change the pathway and change the map, change the story, change the directions. And you're safe to do that. Like not doing it the way that you initially intended is not a failure. It is just experimentation. Like it is just experimentation. Um, And that's amazing. Like everything we do, we are experimenting. I remember I was working with a client and we were talking about we received some stuff from Amazon, and a lot of the language that they used was about experimentation. And it's so interesting to see a company of that magnitude still talking about experimentation, because that's how you get there. You only sustain when you realize that all of this is an experiment. Like all of this is trial and error, because you're building something again that was not here prior. So you got to keep trying. You experiment until you don't want to experiment anymore. This isn't me saying like go forever. If at some point you're just like I'm done, I need a break. Also, rest is very important. Please rest. Rest makes a lot of things more possible because your brain needs it. Like your brain can't actually function or process anything if you don't rest. Um, so as much as you can, when you can, like please rest. The world's not going to explode if you rest. I promise. So remember to change the pathway if you're not getting to the goal in the ways that like you want to. It's okay. Change the path. So that's not on that. Um, yeah, like I said, tomorrow's the boys' graduation. It's crazy. So I'm gonna spend the rest of the day kind of working through, decorating his cap and all that stuff. I hope you have an amazing day. If you want to work with me, I will drop the details in the comment section. I would love to work with you to write your story and become a profitable business that also feels very fulfilling. Um, Fulfilling is the most sustainable and the best part for me. So have an amazing day. Once again, good Maven morning, stay intentional and keep flourishing. All right. Bye.